Well, first of all, happy anniversary, and I'm sorry I can't be there at the conference in person. Much of my work got involved in the business banking areas of our economy, and some of the things that went wrong and how businesses were mistreated led me into all kinds of different areas of economic crime. I think every single instance I saw in terms of some of the scandals that came to light as a result of whistleblowers. So that's how important this conversation is. We need to get the framework right for whistleblowers, and I'm delighted I'm the minister responsible. And you said lots of things on the backbench, of course, that you've got to live up to as a minister. So delighted to be taking part in the review that we're undertaking right now, and keen to make sure the future framework for whistleblowers is absolutely right, because many people there are taking difficult decisions to do the right thing and come forward, and so we can really find out what's really going wrong in our economy. We're always conscious of business burdens. There's a natural thought when anything goes wrong that you regulate, you bring in new regulations. But I think it's right we do that cautiously, because we don't want to add to business burdens. But nevertheless, I think there is a real justification for this review. I think there are some real questions whether the current scope of the definition, for example, around worker is sufficient to protect people who have done the right thing who have a different employment category, for example. I dealt with cases where people have fallen outside the scope of the current definitions. So clearly that's a fundamental part of what the review should look at in terms of the definitions of workers, for example, to make sure anybody who's done the right thing is properly covered by the legislation. The legislation itself, PEDA, of course, is an employment law-based regulation, and that's the way it was drafted. We've got to make sure that still works and make adjustments where possible. The quickest way to adjust anything, if we decide there is a case for review, is through secondary legislation, of course. So, and there's not that much time left in this Parliament, of course, probably just over a year, I guess. So we want action today. Wherever we can take action today that's pragmatic, that makes a difference to people's lives, that actually helps businesses do the right thing as well. And many businesses want to do the right thing, and any business listening to this should really have a good whistleblowing procedures and policies, because it can help you to run your business more effectively, more efficiently, and root out wrongdoing.
Thinking about the whistleblowing framework review that's currently going on, what will it reveal about access to justice, and do you think there are changes that are needed in that sort of area?
I'm a big fan of the employment tribunal process, and the number one thing I've raised, and I say that because nobody wants to go to one. Employees don't, employers don't, and that creates a deterrent to making sure people don't do the wrong thing, because you can end up in a public forum. There is no overarching employment regulator in the UK. Yes, we have 32 million people employed. One of the reasons why things don't go wrong is the deterrent of an employment tribunal, which is subject to public scrutiny. So I think that does a fantastic job, but clearly that should be a backup option. All the experience I've had of when things have gone wrong in terms of whether this mistreatment has happened or inappropriate behaviour, it could have been dealt with so much easier right at the start, which would have been better for the employer, better for the whistleblower, and ultimately things cost a lot more by not dealing with it right at the start and nipping things in the bud. So that's the way employers and their employees should work in terms of those concerns brought forward, deal with them at the company level and take them seriously, and then it would not need to go to an employment tribunal. But if it does, I think it's absolutely right that is the process we have in place to deliver justice. Of course, we've got to make sure they're easier to access, there's more capacity, and people will say it takes too long, and I understand all that. And regulators definitely have a part to play in that, in making sure they take these concerns when raised more seriously. The key fundamental is, do we want to make sure that whistleblowers are treated properly, they're protected properly, they are compensated where things have gone wrong? Absolutely we do. We need to make sure that is the case. So let's look at the review first, and where we need to legislate, we'll look at that, and nothing is off the table in terms of the action we would take if we decide that action needs to be taken. And thank you for all the work you do. Protect does. It does a fantastic job in helping individual whistleblowers themselves, but also in terms of bringing the debate to Parliament and to people and policy makers. Hugely important, and so I know you're contributing to the review, which is obviously engaging with our officials as you do on an ongoing basis. So thank you for all the work you do.